we control the programming that goes on it. There are some rules as to what can go on, like you can't have like advertisements, commercial purposes, things like that, but we can use it for putting out general information, critical information, special events information, but then obviously, if things do go sideways on us, it would have that would trump all the other programming. So we would put out like, state of emergency notifications, evacuation, if we had to do that. If we did evacuate the reentry, we could put reentry information on there. It's really whatever the communication need is, so long as it's not a commercial or an advertisement, we're covered to put that on there.
This is a AM station?
Yes, sir.
Like,
AM.
And what would be on the dial of AM?
1670, 1670.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And with that, I have nothing else.
Okay, big advancement in communication there.
We're coming right along.
Right, okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we have up Surf City Mural. Got two fine people here that's going to present it to us.
Good morning, and thank you for adding us to the agenda. I'm Sandy Monroe, and this is Damian Buchanan, and we're from the Beautification and Enhancement Committee. And we're here today to share our artist recommendation for the Surf City Mural project. We want to take a few minutes to first explain the process that we use to bring these recommendations to you, and to take this opportunity to thank all of the artists for submitting their concepts. There are many extremely qualified and talented artists across North Carolina, and this made it wonderfully difficult to narrow it down to just a few. We were very glad to have Ellen's expertise to help guide us. The three that we will recommend to council today are the ones that we felt were the most qualified and which most embodied the spirit of Surf City. We received approximately 16 applications. All of the applications were kept anonymous and still are anonymous to the Beautification and Enhancement Committee. As I said, we worked with Ellen Elder, our intermediary. She's a skilled local artist and has managed similar juried projects in the past. After eliminating all the incomplete submissions and vetting their references, reviewing their previous works and experience, and keeping the highest quality and most qualified applications, she was able to distill them down to the 7 best submissions and recommended 7 artists for our consideration. These seven artists were presented to the subcommittee that we formed, which consisted of 3 representatives from the main Beautification and Enhancement Committee. We sat with Ellen, and with her guidance and advice, we reviewed the applications for their experience, their previous work, their application narrative, how well their concepts matched the theme of the spirit of Surf City. We considered their overall quality of style of their work in general, and we considered any tweaks that we might request from each artist. The subcommittee was then able to select 5 finalists for voting by the overall Beautification and Enhancement Committee. We presented those 5 options to the committee at large, who each reviewed and voted on those selections independently. After tallying the votes, our first recommendation comes to you with a vote of 4-2. Our second recommendation also came with a vote of 4-2. And the third recommendation varied, but we were able to also provide a third option. Our comments on these recommendations that we would present to the artist as potential tweaks are included, and obviously council suggestions would also be included and presented to the artist upon selection.
Tell us which 3.
I will at the end.
Can you show us those 3?
So at this time, if you have any questions about the process, I'd be happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'm going to let Damian tell you about the next steps, and then we'll share our top 3 recommendations with you.
Okay, now you said that they all, I guess except these 3, will remain anonymous.
At the end of the process, we will pull all of the narratives and all of the images and all of the contact information together in just the next couple of days, once everything's settled, and have that on file. So everyone will, you'll have all of that information later. So if we wish to maybe have another project and reach out to artists, we'll
That's what
have
I'm
that.
saying, so they won't remain anonymous, right? Will they remain anonymous?
The ones that are not selected,
Yeah.
I guess that's up to you all. You'll have that information. It's whether it's released to the public, that's up to you.
As
That was
Mr.
not
Mayor,
our intention.
as part of a town record, they would not be anonymous. I mean, it's not something that we can just put in a vault and,
That's what I'm saying. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
we can,
no, they would not remain. After this
Yeah, I don't know
process
how
is
you were gonna
done,
do
then
that.
any materials and submissions would
gotta be
be
public.
public
Yes,
records.
yes,
yeah.
yes, you'll have all of that.
okay, well, that's,
Yes.
I was just trying to get that cleared up.
I'm sorry, yes, you will have everything. She's gathering it all together right now. I'm just saying, we wanted to keep names and everything out of it as we voted. We only wanted to vote on merit of their submission, and that's what we wanted to share with you, merit of their concept, their previous work, and things like that, so that we don't know if it's male or female, where they...
Yeah, that's fine.
All of that, so. Any other questions on the process?
Okay.
All right,
Obviously, you have the different murals just to look from, but after that, we discuss that, and you provide feedback and discuss, we're open to answer any questions. After we make that selection on the concept, and you decide what you want, we would go back and provide feedback from you and from our committee to that artist. And so what you're looking at is a concept, what we can change that, tweak it, add suggestions, so that we have a final concept that would be approved by our committee, but also by council. And that final selection would actually be part of the contract for this artist between the town and the artist, so that we know exactly what they're going to do. They're not going to deviate from that, to give us some consistency. So we're going to begin that conversation, get the final concept. We come back to have it approved. We sign that contract. Now, the timeline to have it completed is going to vary really because of weather. We just never know. You have a weekend like today, or we're not going to be painting. But our goal is to have the last weekend, the 26th of August, we'll be out there with the pressure washer, cleaning that wall off, and then that same weekend, as soon as it dries up, hopefully with the weather cooperating, we'll paint it. That white mural primer that was been suggested by staff. That will give us a 30-day window, hopefully, for that artist to find good weather to complete their project. And we're aiming for October 1st or mid-October to have our mural completed. We would like to coordinate with council and staff to have some type of reception, some type of celebration for this investment of our community into our culture and our arts. And so that could, we got to figure out that date and when that's going to be, so we can invite, the community, our collaborators, the Cape Fear Council of Governments who helped us with this, the Carolina Beach Mural Project, the New Hanover County Arts Council, and also the Pender County arts community at large. We'd like to really make this a community event. So other than that, if you have any questions about these next steps, we're open for any questions about this process. Oh, they don't have them?
Oh, they have the initial 7.
Oh,
They don't
okay.
have our top 3.
okay,
Right, sorry.
cost, do you agree just to pay them that sum that y'all came up with? And so nobody puts in a bid or anything, right?
No, sir.
That was part of the
No,
RFP.
sir.
That was part of the initial RFP.
And I believe the process for payment is a 3-part payment. So it's not like they just get the money at the...
Right, yeah.
But- Yes,
But I
sir.
mean, the price is just set,
Yes, sir.
okay?
I'd like to say something if I could. When this started, when you guys started, you remember we didn't have bad blood, but I wasn't really an advocate for you guys. I wanted to give you more time, but I got to say, I've been to a few of your meetings since then, and you've done very, very good. I mean, I think you've come a long way. I think you're right on, and I just have to apologize if you thought that I was not 100% again with you, but I'm 100% with you now.
Thank you very much.
I think you've done good work, and go forward.
Thank you.
Well, you know that I'm for the mural on that thing, because I'm the one that started, well, Misty and I started the idea of the mural on that wall. So I'm for the mural on the wall.
So if you're ready, I'll hand out our top 3 recommendations. I'd like you to keep in mind to keep any comments quiet. And I don't know if you want to turn your mics down or whatever, but we'd just like to keep it quiet until we have a contract signed with the artist, and then, so we want to reach out to them first before all these lovely public. So the first recommendation is on the first page, and the second and third are following. In our comments, I'm happy to answer any questions. This was our first recommendation, and this is our
This.
That's our first recommendation. And then the second recommendation was this. So that's our third recommendation.
I'm hearing it, but I cannot see if I.
And as I said, the top 2, the first and second recommendation, were in the committee's top 2 as well.
Okay, now these, right, but, see, this one shows
Both
the
sides.
2 walls. Okay, so what would this one have?
So this one wraps,
Oh,
this is
okay.
showing the wrap. And
Okay.
this one didn't provide a second concept for the 2
For the little
sides,
wall.
but it would be similar theme.
Something similar on that smaller, okay, that's what I was trying to
Yeah.
understand. Yeah, I think you did. You did. Okay, either one of them, because both of them say service.
So keeping in mind as you're driving around, something you can see from the road as you're driving past, you'll be able to take in,
Yeah, this is what you can the one coming across the street. And I'm with Kurt. I think that's the beautiful.
We had a variety of styles. There were realistic, there were, graffiti, there were all different styles. So I guess I could
Do we need, and I guess, officially do, from
Can I
the...
ask a question?
Oh, yes, sir.
In looking and putting the information out for the artist, did you take into consideration the brand we're looking for and what developed as far as what made the town of Surf City? We have a lot of different things that came together that made the town of Surf City. Because when we're looking at doing a mural, I know we're looking at something people want to look at and people also want to take pictures of and that as well. But we're also looking at trying to promote our brand per se. And do it. And this town was built on fishing, tourism. We got the swing bridge we had there. We've got a lot of different things coming into play that I think, and I felt maybe should, if we had any of those in those things, what could be added into those things. That's just my opinion.
And that's a great comment, and we added some of those things here that perhaps some of the tweaks that could be made might be perhaps removing something here and adding a different iconic image and so on and so forth. But you can say fields, just for example here, or on this one, changing out this and adding shrimp or whatever.
Because
something
our
that's
town has a big history. The missile program that came in from that. That's where the NASA program basically started from. It's now down in Florida.
Yes, sir.
Those, to me, those are big things that represents and reflects our town. We were the starting point, and that's the history of it. That's the brand name. And another brand name that we've always pushed from the council standpoint is the family-orientated beach. We're family.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And I think those murals ought to reflect some of those things.
Yes, sir. So I think we can do that. You have there a concept, and there's, our recommendations. You've seen 7, okay? So it's your, the council's decision for this investment in our community, but you have the 3 that we ranked the highest on our recommendation. But like I said, we would like to add this, we'd like to incorporate this theme. You have 3 different themes or concepts that we've recommended. They're very different, but if you say, I like this theme, the way this feels, but I would like to incorporate X, Y, Z, the missiles, the family beach, etc., we will do that.
I think you got an idea here of maybe changing, because this wall is strictly turtle. And I know that we're turtle.
Doug, enough.
What's to say number 1?
Do what?
Number 1.
Well, I'm just talking about it. Well,
Sir,
I'm sorry.
I understand.
And,
Right.
But I'm just saying that's, it's just saying that's what we are,
I understand.
is what this is saying. So I think, and
that's why we have some suggestions on additional things to
Can I see that picture again?
if we could see, the other entries, then we could probably pick some things up from them.
We did provide all the entries to you last night.
Last night,
Carla sent them out
for a
to
meeting
everyone
today.
else. She asked me for them at 4 p.m., so I sent them as soon as I was requested. My apologies, I sent them as soon as I was asked.
Sandy, you don't have to apologize. You did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Yeah, you did a good
You
job.
recommended us what you're supposed to do. You've done a great job. There's no apology. We like what you've done 100%. Thank you for what you've done.
I like what you.
100%.
My question is, do we, obviously, it makes it easier for us to get a decision, but do we need to, do you have to make a decision in a public forum like this? Is that necessary? I don't know. Yes, okay. All we're doing, if it makes council feel comfortable, is that we're delaying our process. And that, if that's necessary, then that's necessary.
We don't need a special meeting for this. I don't.
But what I'm thinking is, and give me a little rope here, is that you find, if you like one of these concepts, and you say, I really like the feel of this one, or I like the feel of this one. However, I'm not cool with the final project until I want to approve this, and these are the things I would like to include or exclude, or because it's a feel of what the art looks like, and then we can incorporate or tell the art what we want. We want some more family concept in there. Let's remove this. This is too much. We want the bridge in there more. But you can kind of get a feel of
What the
they're
style-
different.
what
The style would be, and that's really what we're asking for approval from. And you can put condition on that.
And the plan was definitely to go back to the artist and get a second rendition of the artwork, including any suggestions or revisions that council.
And that would come back to this body for final approval.
Let me ask this question, and I'm not against the mural, I've been for it the whole time. But approximately how long have y'all been working on this? And y'all, because y'all were asking for a decision right now. How long? Just give me a time frame if you don't mind.
I think about.
Well, the idea in our committee
That's what I'm talking
has
about.
been
We
over a
started
year.
discussing it in your committee.
But before I was on the committee, and that was over a year
Last
ago.
spring.
That was over a year ago.
Yes, sir.
And so now we finally come down, and somewhere along the way, it caught traction and took off. And I'm saying, all I'm saying is, why did it take that long to do that? And all of a sudden, we want a quick decision from us. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
I don't think it's a quick decision, Councilman Fowler. When the planning board gives us a recommendation, we don't grill them and ask them, why did it take them 3 months to come up with this?
That's a lot different from what we're talking about here, Mr. Sugar.
They're doing what we asked them to do, which was,
I'm not saying that they didn't do what we were asking them to
right,
do.
correct. That's all I'm saying is,
I think they did a fine job.
I
correct.
do too.
I think they've done a lot of work on it.
Yeah, correct.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that,
So if you
The planning board is under certain guidelines and regulations that they must follow. This is a little different, this committee is.
Well,
But the same thing
it's the
falls
premise, is
down.
what I'm saying.
What I'm trying to point out is the fact that it's been a long time coming to fruition.
Yeah, yeah,
That's what I'm trying to point out.
they've been working real hard on this, for sure. That's all I'm saying. Yeah,
I like it.
I do too.
Appreciate what you've done.
I do too. Yeah, 100%. I think it's good to have some open discussion, and maybe if you want to tweak some things, but I mean, I don't see anything that I need to get myself super wrapped up in this. If the mayor or Councilman Fowler wants to see a different item on there, that's a great suggestion, but I think that I think you guys are in the right place at the right direction. I mean, you've resourced all the professional people for this up to this point in time. It's spent hundreds of hours on this. Way out of my wheelhouse here, so, yeah.
Ms. Monroe, Ms. Damon, I'm not questioning the thing. As I said, I like it. But I was just wanting to make a point about the time frame that we're talking about and what we're doing here. And we need to, whenever the council does make a decision on which one they want to do, I don't have a problem with it. But I just want to make sure that we've got our town well represented in the mural. That's what I'm trying to say, based on how the town's been built and what it's come from and our heritage, basically.
Yes, sir.
And then when we have a next project, if we want to move from our heritage into another phase of the heritage or another phase of the new coming tourism season or whatever the case may be, then we'll have that opportunity to do that and move there.
Yes, sir.
This is no reflection on the fact of the job y'all have done, because you've done a great job. My reflection is on the fact that it took a long time for the tires to hit the highway.
We had to develop a process that was, that would work.
Yeah, I know, but it goes long before that.
Yes, sir.
But thank you.
How much time would you like?
Yeah, I think-
to consider the mural options, and you tell us when you would like. How much time that you would like, and then we can adjust our timeline. The idea was to try to have it completed this fall before winter and rainy season and things like that, so that it was ready for next spring. So we're looking at windows of opportunity for weather. So you let us know what you would like to do, and we are happy to follow that timeline.
Just to make sure that I'm clear, the committee's made 3 recommendations from the 11 submissions. And any submission that's made or any recommendation, if we would like to change or alter, to add something to that, for instance, like the palm trees, we decided to go to with a maritime tree oak,
Yes.
something like that, that's what you're asking this time for. We just choose a mural that
General
has been
concept
presented.
at this time,
And then
and then we can
we can
spend
tweak
time.
it
Yes, sir, and I think, like, the feedback, like, so if you like an concept, this looks good, however, but I want conditions, then that's fine, because we're going to talk as a committee, you know, with your feedback, and I'm not sure we need the feedback today, like you have to have it today, we could get that feedback and work with that artist, announce it, you know, work with the contractor, this is what we want, this is the feedback from council, this is feedback from our committee, and then before this thing even goes in that wall or gets started, it's going to come back before this body again for a final approval when that contract is signed.
How much time do you need? What is the time concept as far as staying with your agenda and us making, all of us making the decision? What is your timeline? Because you said you were going to try to do this and that and the other, clean that wall and then put the white primer on that.
The issue is making sure that the artists, one, I believe, are starting to reach out, interested who's going to be awarded this contract, and then getting that artist to get on there, make sure that they have the time to get on their schedule to do this work, right? And so the sooner the better, really. You know, it's a learning curve, right, for all of us here in doing something like this, because the need for that public hearing and vote in public obviously doesn't always happen every week. So, so that's really the kind of the snag here. But at the same time, we want to make we want to do what's right for the community.
Just a suggestion, looking at it, if y'all's recommendation is number one, we've got that. I don't have a problem with that. But what I would love to see or give some feedback on was, for instance, there's two turtles. I would love to see one of our observation towers be incorporated on that.
Yes, sir.
I would love to see the palm tree replaced with probably a maritime oak.
Yes, sir.
And then that, your recommendation, I'm totally for that. I don't disagree with that at all.
And that's exactly the type of feedback we want.
Yeah, that's the short side. This is the long side.
Okay, yeah, and it's basically incorporated, but we're not a palm tree. We've tried to
Yes, sir.
become that, but we're not a palm tree.
Some of what you're seeing is some of the same comment and feedback that we saw as well. However, we like the feel and the concept as a
Concept.
committee.
I don't have a problem with the concept. Concept's good.
I think this is too plain for that side wall facing coming in. They like the concept.
So I have no problem with number one. See, this wraps around, John.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, that's a short wall.
Mr. Mayor, we're in a public meeting, so we're going to have one discussion at a time. Don't throw rocks at me. I'm just trying to comply with the law. We've had a couple side discussions going on.
Pass me a rock down here.
If you got a full cup of coffee, you can throw it at me.
Well, as I said, I have no problem with your recommendation with those conditions that don't put to it.
So again, to reiterate, what we're asking for is a general approval of the general concept, whichever one you all want to discuss amongst yourself and select, with the conditions that there will be changes. We know there will be changes, and that's perfectly okay, and we're ready for it, and the artist knows that. That was part of the RFP, so they will expect that we will come to them and ask for some tweaks to their concept. So if you can hold something far away and look at it and say, I kind of dig this concept, and this is the one I like the best out of those 3 or out of the 7 we sent you, or whatever you want to do, that's what we're asking for. And if you need more time to make that decision, that's okay too. We can wait. You just need to tell us what to expect. But we would like to not wait too long.
We did. Is there, I mean, it was put out that it would be.
We set some dates, and the artists need to set their schedules, and we would like to have it finished.
We do need to let them know something before too long.
But what concept does everybody like?
I'm trying to, can't we recommend to you that your number one is fine, as far as fine with me?
You certainly can.
With
May be
the,
fine with you, but it may not be fine with everybody else.
well,
You're
that's,
gonna recommend number one, right?
I'll recommend number one.
With
You
changes.
folks can,
Okay.
with changes,
All
can recommend what y'all want.
Jeremy, what do you recommend?
Changes. Go with number 1 with changes.
Are you going with number one?
With changes, yes.
That's just different than what he does, that's one.
I'm a two-person with some changes.
Okay, Buddy?
I can live with either one of them. You know, whichever has the majority, I'll go with, but I can live with either one of them with tweaks, changes.
I like number one with some changes.
Okay, well, I'll go with number one or number two, either one. But I've got one suggestion or
Okay.
request, I guess I would say.
And we can have a lot of suggestions, and we can gather those.
What is it that your suggestion?
A fisherman.
Yes, sir.
Because if you know, everybody hadn't been here all the time, but if you were somebody, ask Mr. Paget back here, if you were here years ago, Surf City wasn't anything but fishermen, right? Either commercial or sport fishermen. And so that's what got Surf City going. So I would love to see a fisherman in something, and probably and a shrimp boat.
Maybe some oysters.
Yeah, maybe some oysters. Wait a minute now, you can't be eating this.
Let me go ahead and.
Anyway, yes, we just need something. In other words, to sort of, you know, we wanted our history sort of represented in this mural too, or that's what I wanted. And, you know, I just feel like that, you know, here, like I say, I love turtles, they're fine, but that is not the total town,
I think we can work on this.
We can do that, yes.
okay?
So do we have a
Let me,
consensus?
may I make a motion?
Yes,
Let me make a motion that we accept number one as the concept with changes that'll be coming later, that we can give those changes to Mr. Shugart, who's a liaison to that committee, and he can present them back to you all, and then you can incorporate those changes that the council wants, the things like maritime oaks, oyster shells, fishermen, back to the artist, and they can incorporate that in. And then you can provide that back through Mr. Shugart to Mr., our clerk, and get it back to us. And then, but we can move forward with the concept of number one.
Okay.
That sounds perfect.
okay, do it. All in favor, raise your hand. Looks like you got a unanimous vote.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
And
we'll
we're not
hopefully-
trying to give you a hard
No,
time now.
this is important, and we really appreciate the opportunity to fulfill this vision that you had for this mural, and we're going to do our best.
And I feel like it's going to be something that's going to be there for a long time. So
We'll get it right.
and you're going to have to look at it a lot every time you come across that bridge.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All righty. And I appreciate everybody's work on that. Now, ordinance and fee schedule on contractor parking.
I will take care of this, Mr. Mayor, and good morning, and
Okay.
fellow council persons. This is probably a little less colorful than the last item, but you heard from the last meeting some concerns about contractor parking, and this is a result of those concerns and meeting with our parking vendor to come up with a solution that is equitable across town for paid parking and how that interacts with contractors doing work on homes and businesses, et cetera. So what I'm proposing and recommending the town do is to implement a day pass program if a contractor is to park in a designated paid parking spot. If there is paid parking in front of the location in which they're doing work. Our current paid parking policy allows for contractors to park within the right-of-way if they're not within a paid parking location, and that would remain consistent. So there is a draft ordinance that has been presented for your review, and I would just be seeking consensus to move this forward into ordinance adoption and fee schedule adjustment. That fee would be set at $10 per day if that contractor has to park in a paid parking spot.
That is $10 per day.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it didn't really say here, it was just. Maybe we need to put per day on
And
that?
I can certainly do that.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And just to, this has not been an issue in the past, except for here recently. So, I don't anticipate this, this isn't being set up as a revenue generator for the town by any means, but we do need an equitable approach if contractors are going to utilize actual paid parking spots.
Keep them from piling up and.
Yeah, and they've done a fantastic job at avoiding any sort of conflict and, through direction to our paid parking vendor, we are not going, we certainly are not trying to go after any contractors that are parking within the right of way. Our contractors have been good with this program, so.
Yep. Just takes a lot of parking to build a house or anything.
It does, yes.
All kinds of different subcontractors.
Yeah.
All righty. You don't need do you need a motion?
Just
on that?
if council is in agreement with this, just a consensus, and we'll move it to September.
Okay,
I'll
everybody
make-
in agreement.
I'll make a motion to put it on the
But we just,
agenda.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right.
I
you
agree,
got it.
I agree with it, Kyle. With them getting, like, it's just say they were to get the season pass for parking. They can, or no?
No, because season passes, if they wanted to buy a $250 season pass, they could still, a contractor could do that if they wanted to.
So-
They'd be treated just like a individual that does not live within Surf City.
And these contractors, if they want to get back on the island after a storm, what are they doing?
We will issue reentry, but that is 48 hours before the event. Yeah, nothing else is changing within the hurricane reentry or paid parking policy, except for the addition of this contractor parking permit for a daily permit.
Okay. And the 6 to 10 to 75, that's additional parking passes for businesses, right?
Oh, yeah, that, anything in black on that fee schedule is not being adjusted.
Okay.
It's only the addition of that contractor parking pass in red that is being evaluated at this time.
All right. Okay, you want to take the alcoholic, let's see, ordinance revision?
Yeah,
Beverly.
I will be here to back up Ms. Shepherd. I think that
okay.
she is going to foster this recommendation moving forward.
Okay.
Council, in front of you, you have an ordinance revision for Section 1211, which focuses on the alcoholic beverage possession and consumption. So recently, a request came in within our special events application process. Unfortunately, we had to deny it in the current form that they were asking for when it came to alcohol on the premises and where that was being held. So in order to move forward with their request, we would need approval for this change to take place. Essentially, the impact with this particular event, it would allow the individual event organizer to request road closures to carry and consume open containers within roadways and right-of-ways. When we made these revisions, this was done within the Special Events Committee. We had a balance between the fire department, the police department, emergency management, and the town manager. All of them were a part of this drafting process. So moving forward, if we decide to move in approval of this, all of them would have to have sign off along with the special event committee to allow alcohol in certain areas, including the streets and sidewalks within a special event, and all of that will be approved under specific conditions, such as areas and timeframes of their event.
So basically, what we're talking about is through the Special Events Committee, you're asking for revision of our ordinances governing alcohol use in the town. And by doing so, that brings us up to date and brings us into the present as well as probably projected into the future to handle any kind of events that would come up through the Special Events Program or through any other events that may come along that would allow y'all to make a decision based on our ordinance, because we have a lot of people that come in and ask for events because of our ordinances can't come. And you've got all the players in play here with your Special Events Committee which is the fire and the police, as well as the town manager and the Parks and Recreation staff. And you're trying to provide with these ordinances, the changes, you're looking at the safety aspect of it and trying to give it a trial. But this has got to be in place before we can give a decision on some of these events that are submitted to you.
That is correct.
I surmise that pretty fairly right.
Yep, that is correct. All the players of the town, when it comes to all the departments that could be associated or associated with an event, are part of that group. Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with the revision as per se, but if we run into a situation that has a lot of problems caused by the fact we've changed this ordinance, what do you think we need to do? What would you all do to ensure that didn't happen at the next event that come along that had something similar to this?
So we would decline it, and we would make a recommendation for what would need to be put in place, and what areas that would need to happen for alcohol. So, for instance, if we were having issues with the streets and sidewalks, either we would come back to council and make a revision completely, or we would take that component out and deny it and give them opportunities for other areas.
Mr. Attorney, let me ask you a question, if I may. Is there any way that we can possibly, because I'd kind of like to have it, this is a trial basis going for us. Is there any way we can suspend the rules, our current orders for this project, and then if it goes, make them permanent, or can we, what do we need to do? Give me some guidance.
You can suspend the ordinance for a specific event by motion.
And adopt what she's talking about, just for that event.
Well, I would probably, so staff has clear direction, it would be a motion to suspend the enforcement of the ordinance or policy under these conditions, whatever those conditions are.
If I understood what you said, then we can suspend our normal ordinance for this event only, and then our normal ordinance still takes effect after that.
Yes, sir.
I don't have a problem with that, and I would like to consider that.
And I'd like to make sure Mr. Brewer's comfortable. I mean, you have the legal authority to do that. You wouldn't be setting a legally binding precedent, but if Mr. Brewer wants to weigh in on behalf of staff, I would certainly welcome his observations.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that by doing that, I want to make sure that we do not somehow inadvertently take the, I guess, control out of the Special Events Committee to apply conditions to applications, because even though, this is something that we've talked about, even though somebody proposes to do an event and have alcohol within our town streets or within the right-of-way, that may not be acceptable to certain departments, and we want to be able to condition those applications. I would just, if I can ask, I guess, a question, could we do through the resolution and adoption process potentially, could we put a time frame in which this would be in place, and then staff would know in 3 months, in 4 months, that council is going to revisit this ordinance? That's just another option that I would say. I just don't want any inadvertent action by totally suspending Section 1211. Really, it's C is the big component here. Any unintended consequences of doing that, and I haven't had a chance to sort of think of what unintended consequences there may be. Not saying that that's a bad idea, though.
And I agree with you that if we suspend it, now I understood that to be for just one event, Mr. Fowler.
It's kind of like a trial basis.
Right. But as I indicated earlier, it should not handcuff staff from putting certain conditions. For instance, from my perspective, liability insurance is a big concern. Making sure they have the appropriate permits is a big concern. I'm sure police has concerns, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I don't see that this ordinance is going to have any effect on those types of items. Those are already in place, part of our special events handbook and manual and all that other. But perhaps just through the resolution process, we could suspend 1211C, and then through the resolution, essentially reauthorize staff to apply any specific conditions they feel relevant to an application as stated in the ordinance, based on the health, safety, and general welfare of the town. Maybe that could just, a suspension and then language in the resolution giving staff back that authority would reduce any concerns, I guess, that I would have.
Don't we have, through the special events, is one of the reasons why we set that group up. Aren't they not able now to make conditions on things based on our ordinances as well and approve them or ask for conditional things?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's just to make sure there's no pushback from anybody that is going through that process. I think that we could just suspend and reiterate that we have that ability to do it. That
Right.
way,
The
applicant is very clear that staff is in control with this.
The suspension does not suspend staff's ability to append conditions.
Right.
We're not allowing.
Now, I mean, seems like to me that the police department would have the main input on this, whether you're gonna have drinking in the streets or what.
Yeah, and the other big thing that we looked at, for events, is that if you have the ability to have people in the right-of-way, and there's a soft closure of that road, there's certain like fire assets that we would want to locate within that event space, as opposed to only being able to respond, because we don't want to delay in response. So yeah, I mean, fire and police are going to certainly be the drivers of those conditions.
I mean, we haven't even mentioned those really.
Right. And then the time frame stuff, because we do want to still maintain, as much as possible, a family-friendly environment, and we think that there are certain conditions that need to be applied for when those types of activities occur. But I think we're on the right page, same page moving forward, and we'll just make sure some language is in the resolution if that's council's desire for you to look at on September 6th, just to make sure we're all good.
Yeah, I think so. Y'all okay with that?
Does alcohol include mixed drinks?
Yeah, they've changed it to alcohol instead of,
So it's still alcohol, we've taken out the malt beverage and beer, but you still label down at the bottom that spirit, possession, consumption of fortified wine, spirits, liquor, and mixed beverages are prohibited in the same locations as those listed.
The only reason I was questioning it was trying to find, because kind of like a probationary period, but this is a trial period. This gives us an opportunity to spread our wings and come into the future, to say it is, and still maintain our current ordinances we've got. And then if we see it works, then I think we can put all these things in. But that gives us an opportunity to do that. Basically, if you look at it, we're just suspending the section C of the alcohol and stuff in our normal orders based on the conditions set forth by our Parks and Rec, or special event committee. And then it would be approved and go. And if it works out well, then we can go ahead and adopt what she is presenting to us today, and then that would cover all future events.
I have a question. Okay, so basically, when you go to an establishment, the bartender is responsible for the consumption amount that he serves. Is there going to be some sort of language in here that's going to restrict or control the amount consumed? Because I think that would be a big liability issue for the town if we just open up and sell beer to everybody or sell wine to everybody and there's nobody there. Who would be the individual responsible? Would it be the vendor?
So it would be the event organizer, so that would be labeled, so if it's an external event, whoever that event organizer is, and then we would have a police officer, so wherever beer purchasing is taking place, there's somebody checking IDs, that event organizer, all of that information's been presented to the special event committee, and then we have a police officer that's close by. And then we stipulate that time frame. So typically, that time frame is a shortened time frame, so that keeps up with kind of the amount of alcohol that people can consume during that time frame.
Yeah, because I remember when I used to go to baseball games. Around the 6th inning, they'd stop serving beer because it got to be.
So typically, right now, 30 minutes prior to any of our events ending, that's typically when you'll see that cut off.
Thank you.
The vendor will like keep out coolers, like people bringing in coolers.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah, he'll be responsible. He's the main one that's gonna be responsible, is your vendor.
so the event organizer, so if the town was the event organizer, we would stipulate what's okay. So when somebody comes in with a special event, they would tell us what they're wanting to do, then we would turn around and stipulate what we would allow them to do on the town premises. But it's up to them as the event organizer to make sure that's followed through. We have town staff, police officers, fire department, most of the time who's involved at some capacity of the event. And if those things are not being followed through, when we have a debrief meeting after that event happens, we'll make those changes to make sure that next year, if the event comes back to the table and they want to have it again, that we make sure those same stipulations happen, or if they don't, then that would give us a reason to decline the event.
Okay.
Let me pose another question and maybe take some of this out of discussion. I'll use my fellow compadre here. If John Koloski was asking for a special event, and the one we're referring to right here, and said that he wanted to do the same thing with the same footprint that they have, and we suspended Section 1211 just for his event, and the conditions put on him by the town manager and through our special events committee just for that event, then we could maintain our current orders we've got, except for spending for that section just for that event. And that would take care of it through the
Special events.
special events committee.
That's the way we want to go, then yes.
I'm just asking that, throwing that question out, because then we wouldn't have to go through all this. We will be suspended. But if we like the concept of this, then I think we ought to go ahead and approve this. But I'm just saying, because I know one of the things that mentions, for instance, I'm concerned basically with safety and alcohol throughout the town. But they've got a roadmap laid out, for a footprint laid out, which we have our fire there, our police chief is there, a representative from the police department. They've all agreed and looked at all the problems and tried to come up with solutions and make recommendations and give them back to the event organizer, whoever that might be. In this case, it's Mr. Koloski here. And he's incorporated those. But now, one of the things that it does do, our ordinance does do, has to do with alcohol on the beach. I don't think we should ever allow alcohol on that beach out there.
So we have not made that change. That is still there.
Okay.
And now the beach is the only place that spirituous liquors are not allowed, right?
With this application, I think so, yes.
Is that right?
I keep reading. I'm keeping.
And
make
mixed
sure I got that.
beverages can be,
Wine, spirituous liquor, and mixed beverages are prohibited in the same locations as those listed in subsection A.
A, and then subsection A only covers the beach,
Beach.
right? Yeah. Okay. So if somebody gets a permit to sell mixed drinks,
I'll have to go back to that because the way we were talking about is it would strictly be beer and wine. That is the only thing that we've allowed in the past is beer and wine.
okay, I mean, I'm not trying to make it hard on you, but I'm just trying to say that's the way I read it, so.
I will get clarification on that to make sure I'm giving you the correct
Blame it on
information.
Teresa, she said, can we
Mr.
have mixed
Manager.
drinks?
Mr. Manager, I think the council is I can't speak for them, but I know I am, because I was concerned about the safety end of it, looking at it and bringing us into the future and trying to give us some updated on our stuff. What is your recommendation, or how do you feel about this to the board?
I think that, I think we can come back at the October work session. We'll move forward with the suspension. I think that's a good idea. We can move forward with that. And then we go ahead and place mark October work session to give you an update on how this goes. I do feel that going through the special events committee and, working with our police chief and our fire chief and emergency management, we have the tools in place to make this a safe environment. Working with Chief Voorhees and Chief Wilson, they don't want to see anything that potentially would get out of control. And, I think that's even accredited to the application that was submitted that had to be denied. Even if alcohol were permitted, we already have said there's certain areas within, this special event that is not going to fly. So I do feel confident in that, and I think that council can certainly move forward with this, and on the trial basis, we're looking at, 2.5 months, actually a month and a half to bring it back to you to look at, because we'll have an event that's going to potentially take advantage of this.
Okay.
Then I make that motion that we suspend it for that special event, and leave it in the hands of the manager and the special events committee to bring back whoever that individual or individual may be that is requesting this, that we would suspend that.
I'll second that.
All in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
And we'll bring a resolution to you September 6th to effectuate that suspension. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Jody. All right. Easement request. I thought we already had this.
This is, looks probably very similar to one that council considered in the Tropical Wind subdivision, and this is specifically tied to the direct adjacent property owner to the land in which the town took ownership with the pond and is incorporating within our new Earl G. and Inez Recreation Complex. So the lot owner of Lot 94 has requested a 30-foot easement adjacent to their property on the pond side, for the same protections that essentially were granted across the street. The difference with this is that the prior easement request, there was an easement in place with the prior property owner, so we were honoring essentially honoring that easement that was in place. This is going to be a new request, but very similar in nature in regards to 30 feet being extended from that property line.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward with the request.
I second it.
Can't deny Steve.
This is the owner of Lot 94, is all I had.
That doesn't affect, my question, that doesn't affect the town whatsoever. It's just going along with what was in place before, correct?
That's correct. So there's essentially a hammerhead kind of modified T turnaround at the end of Royal Palm Avenue. 30 feet does not extend even past the pavement of the top portion of that T. Because that was brought up in our discussion last time, that granting of this easement would not impact any sort of turnaround and the walking trail that we will plan on putting around that pond. But there's no additional development that is recommended to occur on that residual piece that the town took over. We don't have plans to put any sort of parking or structures or anything like that. So I don't feel that the 30-foot easement would be an impediment to the town's future use of that property.
And he'll probably do like the other guy, keep this mowed and all.
You better, yeah. Be a condition
Save
of
us
approval.
trouble.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. All right, do I have a motion?
You got the Teresa made the motion.
Oh, we got a
Chairman
motion,
seconded.
you got a second? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All right, so moved. All righty. Personnel handbook revisions.
All right, I will, Ms. King is out today, but the first portion, there's two portions of this revision. The first one is the performance pay standards, and I'm trying to look for that, I don't see it, but performance pay standards, and then the second one is our travel policy. The performance pay standards need to be adjusted and objective standards be applied to it due to the fact that the town has taken on a very robust personnel management through pay standards, merit pay. Performance pay is essentially merit pay, in incorporating that into an employee's annual evaluation. So the annual evaluation has two elements to that. One is a core competency standard. That's your numerical rating, usually about surrounded by customer focus, job efficiency, et cetera. And then the other portion of that is the annual goals that are applied to each employee, and specifically how those meet our organizational objectives of service opportunity, resiliency, and efficiency. So what the first portion of the policy would do would apply a calculation based on each one of those two standards, the first one being those core competencies. So for example, if you have a total obtainable score of 44 and you achieve 40, you're essentially going to divide those two numbers into each other, get the percentage, and that could be applied to whatever we budget for performance pay standards for the year. And then that would be coupled with, has an employee met their goal, or goals that would be applied to it. So again, we would use a minimum number of goals in which a supervisor would apply to an employee that are above and beyond just doing your daily work and achieving the larger goals of the town. So we needed policy to be able to implement that. Believe that that's a fair process. We've talked about this in our department head meetings and have listened to feedback that has been provided. So we're asking to be able to move forward with the performance pay policies. The second, I'll stop there. Is there any questions in regards to performance pay and how that is administered? And again, this is totally dependent on what we are able to budget for, and if we cannot budget for performance pay in a fiscal year, then there will not be performance pay to be had. The second item is really just a cleanup. We had in my opinion, an antiquated travel policy. It was pretty broad, pretty open, didn't give a lot of direction. And unfortunately, we haven't really been able to use a travel policy too often because there hadn't been a whole lot of outside meetings, conferences, et cetera. So what the updated travel policy is doing is a full repeal and replace. Travel being defined as being outside of a 50-mile radius, identifying what constitutes as reimbursable items, setting a federal standard that comes from the GSA and the per diem rates so that there's predictability, having a pre-authorization for travel that has to go through a department head, so that department head is looking at the specifics of the cost. Also, a department head would be required to submit their travel request to the manager. Sort of as not a financial pre-audit, but essentially just taking a look at what's going on. And then there would be a reimbursement if there is a necessary reimbursement that needs to occur after that travel. So it does require employees to take a town vehicle if there's a town vehicle available. If not, they have to get additional approval to try and avoid reimbursement for federal mileage as well. So again, this just kind of cleans everything up, for our travel policy, and we would certainly recommend council move forward to adopt that.
Can I make a motion that we adopt this?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, purchase order request. Who's doing that? Okay. Oh, it says utilities, doesn't it?
Morning, Mayor, Council.
Oh, you mean you have purchase order request every once in a while?
Every once in a while, yes, sir. This is a larger order. This is already budgeted in the 22-23 budget. This is a F-450 crane truck. If you want to look at something similar, it's similar to what Flourish uses. It's a larger truck with a side-mounted crane. The intention behind this is to not only more easily get into some of the tighter neighborhoods such as Bland Shores and trying to think another example besides Bland Shores. On the south, and you got very heavy growth tree neighborhoods, get in there, but also the boom truck is very useful to all departments. So during Christmas time or when another department might be using a boom truck, this keeps us with the ability to pull pumps, which we are doing 3 days a week now. That's the intention behind it. The total cost is $120,000, $687. Like I said, it is already budgeted. Due to the huge lead times on these trucks, we're waiting a year and a half on trucks. We just, believe it or not, just received the 2 we ordered last July this week. I would like to go, if the council desires, I'd like a vote today if that's possible.
Okay.
I make a motion we approve the request since it's already budgeted.
I'll second it.
All in favor, raise your hand. So moved.
Thank you.
You got your crane.
I appreciate it.
Okay. East Carolina Council Representative. This is another government extension. And Kyle and I talked about it, and we think we've got somebody that could very easily represent us on that council, right?
I believe so, and this would be very similar to the Cape Fear Council of Governments representation. It's typically an elected official from the member jurisdictions. The Eastern Carolina Council of Governments, our affiliation with this is through the Onslow County portion of town, which is very limited, and our involvement with the Eastern Carolina Council of Governments essentially it would be an additional resource for us, but very similar to the efforts in which occur with the Cape Fear Council of Governments, in which we are very heavily involved in.
Right. And Teresa is the representative to COG.
I believe so.
And,
She volunteered for it, didn't she?
she just did.
Oh, okay.
In fact, she wrote her name down right. Oh, no, I wrote it down.
Yeah,
didn't I?
with an H.
Yeah.
I put an H in there, sorry. Teresa.
So I make a motion that we want Teresa to.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yeah.
Okay, got 2 or 3 seconds, so you can't get out of it. All in favor, raise your hand. All right, Teresa is the new representative. And,
Try to do that quick, Doug. We knew she was going to try to slip out of that.
right. Okay. Next thing on the list is Coastal Resource Advisory Council representative, and this is a representative, and that is called a COG, is what it's called.
Oh, a crack.
Crack.
A crack, yeah, yeah.
So anyway, and the representative from this area before was Michael Moore. And so we need a representative from here to go. And Kyle had offered to do it. So now I don't know whether anybody else wants to do it. No thanks. You didn't, no thanks. Oh, we got some no thanks on it.
I'll second it. We second Kyle to go. Let him go.
Well, you can't second yet. We got to have a motion.
I made a motion, we accept.
And second.
And second. How about that?
Will anybody else second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. Okay. All right. Lordy. They do a lot of work, and because that's what they do. They put things together, and then they send it to us on the CRC, and so I'll know about it if they do something, right?
Yes, sir. That's my understanding, and I'll be humbled and honored to represent certainly the town and this area on this committee. And I'm generally familiar with it. 5 meetings a year. but will require a little bit of travel, which will be okay. And I think with Mayor Medlin, your membership on CRC, this will only strengthen our influence and guidance for coastal rules. So.
Yeah, it just helps us look after our area a little.
That's right. That's right.
Okay? Of course, I found out with the little houses out there, there's not much CRC can do sometimes. Okey-doke. What's next? Oh, the streets discussion. Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, I just want to preface and please excuse me, Chris. Chris is just not feeling very well. So I've asked Mr. Price to sort of help out. Mr. Price has intimate background and knowledge of town roads, and will help lead the discussion in front of the board.
I think you've faced this before, right?
Oh, yes, sir, a little bit. With this neighborhood, the arbor was actually started back when streets was part of Public Works, so I'm intimate with this. The Phase 1 and Phase 2 was completed 2015 and 2016 respectively, so it's been hanging out there for a while. It was originally designed to be a city-owned street under plan review under the old specs, not the specs we're on now, but the old DOT specs, which is 6 inches of subbase and 1.5 inches of asphalt. Since then,
were we able to change these to the new?
No, sir. Typically, whatever review that, whatever law that is in place at the time, we hold them to that law. We don't update them mid-process. That would involve digging out all the roads and starting from scratch, and just not a policy that we're in. Phase 1 tested fine when it was under me. Phase 2 was tested under Chad when he was here. Overlooking his data, on most points under actual road construction, it meets the criteria at the time, except for one, which is slightly under one spot. But as an average, the road construction does meet the standard at the time. He did generate a punch list, which is included in your package, one from March 2021 and one from October 2021. The staff recommendation is to go ahead and approve the roads under the contingency that this punch list is completed and approved by town staff. And I'm available, and so is Chris, for any questions.
I'll make a motion.
So what does the punch list consist of?
We do have a couple cracks on the road, sidewalk damage, some curb damage. On corner of Alston Boulevard between Collegiate and Burke, the road's failing. It needs some improvements on the regulatory signs. Truncated domes need to be installed in proper areas.
Is all of this work they've agreed to do so it can be done?
The last time that we spoke with them, they were more or less just trying to not take care of the punch list, sir. But if they want us as a town to take over the streets, they will have to complete this punch list.
Right.
So it's
I think we need to turn down the acceptance of this until they do the punch list, don't you?
Yeah. They got to do the punch list before we gonna even consider accepting them. It's, we don't wanna consider accepting anything until they do the punch list. Once they complete the punch list and you folks are satisfied with it, then we'll be satisfied with it.
I think that that's the way we should go.
Yeah.
And make sure that the punch list is satisfactory to you guys, to make sure that they've done everything the right way, like from start to finish. No cutting corners, none of that, you know?
I think what David did, or what he presented to us was basically what we're all saying. Approve it once they got the conditions met or the punch list, and giving David the ability and Chris the ability, once they've got that punch list completed, to sign off on it and take it into the town.
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. I've already made that motion. So.
John made the motion.
Yeah. I'll make the motion to do it, providing they
Everything
adhere
is
to
good.
everything's is copacetic.
And once the conditions are met, then sign off on it and let the council know.
I got a second on that.
Yeah, I second it.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay.
Thank you.
Hey, David, I have one question. How many phases are in the arbors?
It was only 2 originally.
2.
Yes.
So there'll be no more,
There's no more phases. It's just building out the last couple homes now.
okay. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. All right. Now we're gonna do some digging on the beach. All right, we do have an ordinance on digging holes on the beach, but we may want to look at it a little more. And then we've also got a request from some of the other beaches up the way that they want us to draw up a resolution and send a resolution to the state, asking the state to come up with ordinances that the state will have, and that'll give us a little more ability on enforcing it. And right now, we have that if they dig a hole in the beach, it can only be 12 inches deep. And I know, has anybody ever seen a hole on the beach deeper than 12 inches? Has anybody ever seen anybody stop at 12 inches? No. So we're going to have to do a little more enforcing on this. And says that it has to be filled back in, which, that's what we, put out everywhere. So I think we need to maybe look at some way if we can strengthen this enforcement. And the reason is they've had some deaths. I don't think we've had any right here. They did at Topsail Beach. Of course, that was a little different circumstance. That was I call them a cult, but a group that would go down and they were staying at yes, that one's about 6 inches deep, up to his waist. But anyway, what they were doing, they were digging a hole, and then you got buried in the hole.
Oh, yeah.
And then they would wait a certain amount of time, and then they would dig you up.
You hope.
And that gave you time, in other words, your body to get rid of the spirits or something. I don't know what they were supposed to be getting rid of while they were buried under that sand. But one of them, they didn't get out quite time enough. So, but anyway, I think we do need to draw up a resolution to send to the state requesting them to, and we have one here from Nag's Head, so we can sort of look at that and do one according to that. So anyway, do I have a motion to give
I make a motion
the
that
town to,
we do this and give it to who we need to give it to go to the legislature.
Yeah.
Because something's gotta be done about this, or, it's gonna, the policemen that are out there on the beach riding, they gonna start have to taking names of people digging holes, so if they're not filled in, they know who to come back to.
yeah, and I'm not talking about a youngin' out there with a little plastic spade.
No, we're talking.
We're talking about grown-ups with
Yeah.
big shovels and all.
Oh, yeah,
So, anyway, like the one that you had there.
yeah.
So,
They get ridiculous.
okay.
I'll second that.
You second that? All in
Yes.
favor, raise your hand. Motion's carried. Thank you. All right. We got that for you, Carla, so. Okay. All right. Next one is bike pedestrian one-way street pilot program.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Don't make anybody mad.
I'd like to push this on Amy, but she's not here today. So, no, the town essentially adopted the Comprehensive Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan in December of 2017. Within that plan is a series of recommendations, priorities, et cetera, for the town to implement over the years. And really, we've tried to be faithful with that. Certainly, budgetary constraints limit funds that we can designate towards major projects, but really focusing on infill of the central business district, for example, the connection between the IGA shopping center and now South Shore was just completed last month. But one of the other recommendations within this plan, which as soon as I got here, started looking at this, thought that this was somewhat of a novel idea to, one, reduce the town's infrastructure costs by building additional sidewalks, but two, reducing the need to add additional impervious surfaces within our fragile island environment. So what the plan had recommended, this isn't just a staff recommendation, but carried on from that adopted plan, was to look at implementing a pilot program that would have a very narrow focus time frame to convert a portion of Shore Drive from a two-way street to a one-way street, but utilizing half of the travelway for a bicycle and pedestrian path, essentially. So in the memo provided to you in your packet, you can see the first is an image that shows the conflicts that exist when pedestrians are moving to and fro their points of destination. Vehicles are essentially driving down the middle of the road regardless. So it's an inefficient and sometimes unsafe environment. At the time of this plan, when it was adopted, there was not a parking management program in place, so I do think that has helped. But this could further out the town's efforts to bring more of a pedestrian-oriented community to fruition. So what we would look at would be the area from New Bern Avenue, which is one block short of Wilmington, where Station 23 is, down to High Point Avenue, which is approximately 0.6 miles or 0.6 of a mile. We would implement temporary measures such as bollards, breakaway bollards, to delineate that area. And then once this, what I'm recommending is a 3-month program. Once that would be completed, we would then garner the feedback and input from the community to see, A, did they like that program? B, did it cause more headaches than it is worth? And if we have community support, the town could then make plans to make this a more permanent type of solution, and even consider extending this program to North Topsail, so that we would have opposite direction parallel roads and really create that north and south corridor along our beach. We are fortunate that we do have sort of a modified grid system, so that there's access to side streets to get to other locations. But with any change comes with the necessity to educate our public, educate people coming to our town on those changes, because I know we've had challenges on the one-way conversions on other streets just for vehicular traffic. But people are getting used to that, and I think we have seen a increase in traffic flow as people can leave a destination. So as you can see, excerpts out of that plan on page 2 of that memo gives you somewhat of a visual. You can see the police car traveling south, and then bicyclists and pedestrians would be able to move north or south within that designated area. That would be about 9 to 10 feet, which is generally the standard width of a multi-use path, and could provide options for both people riding a bicycle or walking, and then there would be a separation of 1 to 2 feet, and we would be able to do some basically preliminary road markings and bollards as mentioned. So when this had initially come up, I reached out to both police and fire chief, and they were very hesitant, I would say, to start. And I said, let's just think about this and see how it may work. Mostly impacting our response from Station 23 coming south, which is why I would say we would deviate from the plan recommendation, which originally was once you get to Roland, you would go north or south. There would be a split there. I think this needs to all continue one way throughout the entirety of that section. And a fire truck or police vehicle would still be able to go south on Shore Drive. And if there was a vehicle in the road, they would still be able to maneuver into that pedestrian travel lane until that emergency vehicle is able to safely pass. So I did not want to get too far on this project without bringing this up to council in a work session format, hearing some of your concerns, and then ultimately, if this is something that you would want to pursue, we would go back and get some of the details worked out with it. The two major inhibitors that I've identified for this is mail and trash service delivery and pickup. And at some point, our postmaster probably worked with the town to move every single mailbox on Shore Drive to the sound side of the road. I would prefer that the vehicular travel lane stay on the sound side. So the pilot program may go to the ocean side, but I think ultimately we still have to potentially move some mailboxes onto the other side of the road for this to work, because I don't want to get into a conflict with the postmaster and disrupt any sort of service delivery with mail. The other portion of that is through this pilot program, and I've talked to Chris a little bit about this, is that if trash carts are brought down, we might have to bring them out to the inward extent of that travel lane so that the GFL truck can pick up those carts. So we've got some challenges with this, and again, I didn't want to spend too much time without sort of garnering the input of council. This was recommended and adopted within your plan, which, going back through the initial input of this, we did receive about 1,000 comments in the development of that plan. So I feel like it was pretty heavily looked at, during the time of adoption. So I bring this to you, as a potential option. At towards the end of the memo, I put together a visual that would show an option if this pilot program worked and we wanted to further implement the program that would look at the North Topsail Drive and create essentially a continuous loop. We would not want to go further south than High Point or Kinston, down that way, because people do rely on South Shore as another northbound route if they're coming from the south end of the island. So happy to open it up for discussion, any sort of considerations or recommendations or concerns, and if do we want to move forward with this or do we not?
That North Topsail route, if we go south, I'm not for that.
There would be no southbound on North Topsail, and we wouldn't touch North Topsail. Consideration.
North Topsail's not changing. He was just showing that.
I'm leery about South Shore and North Shore.
Understood.
And
I don't necessarily without going through the plan development process, I don't know what sort of conversations were had when this was put into that plan. So I am void of that background knowledge on it, but I think that's probably why they recommended this being a pilot program to start with, and then to get the feedback of the users. So that's something, if something is not working, we can rip it up essentially really quick.
I don't think Don was in it when we were doing the first plan.
I don't think so, but the way I think we're gonna have to get all of the right-of-way cleared before we can even think about this. I think we gotta get all this right-of-way on North Shore Drive and get the right-of-way cleared so we know exactly how much room we got. Because I got news for you, with this plan that we have now, that they're going back and retaking the right-of-way. We need to get that done first before we even consider this, I think.
No, I think that's a very valid point and concern. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think we need to put this on hold till we get that other completed.
How long is that gonna be?
That's gonna be up to Amy and.
Yeah, I'll talk to her next week, because those public meetings need to get scheduled as soon as possible. We were waiting for the end of the summer. We didn't want to spring up a bunch of public meetings when people weren't in town. But as you recall, there was a phased approach with that, and working through the zones. That phase one was to look at that 8-foot clearance, and that's going to take, that'll take months and quite a while.
Phase one won't even touch this area, will it?
Through the zones, I believe we were going to notify everybody all at once to let them know what they needed to do. But enforcement, Scott is not going to be able to do each zone from day one. He just won't be able to write that many letters to be able to get to the public. But I can continue to coordinate both of these if we feel like they are intertwined, and continue to work on some details. I just want to know, essentially, does council have any major concerns with the concept of the idea? And if the concept you feel is supported, then I can continue to work on some of the details. But again, I didn't want to get too far into it without you all being able to see this again, understanding that this is part of our adopted plan. And again, we don't have to do any of it. We can continue to build our infrastructure as we'd like to see regardless. So
I think the concept is good, being not just me, just being a bike rider that travels a lot on every day. But the only other thing I see is, and I don't leave the island traditionally after Thursday during the summer anyway, but I know that the traffic backs up well past my street is Atkinson Road, and people use that back road to get to the north end, or to circumvent the traffic if they can. If they're not going to go across the bridge and they just want to go to the north end, that's the only thing that I think would just add to the traffic backup. But the concept to me is good.
Well, most of it is, though, they get on that road to try to get up there and cut in front of other people coming north.
Yeah, because you got the 10 o'clock departure, in the morning on Saturday, and it's I'm glad I don't have to do it.
I've always said that they would be better off if all the rental companies would get together and divide their rentals up, some of them on Saturday and some of them on Sunday. And, it'd make it a lot easier on the house cleaners and also on the traffic.
Well, the concept is fine, but I think, like I said before, I think the right-of-way's got to come first. I think we need to get that done first. And the sooner we get that done, the better off everybody's gonna be.
And we can, you know, as we still have the,
First came up with this idea.
we still have the opportunities to have those meetings, and we can incorporate this into those meetings to bring it back up to the public if they weren't here when this was originally brought up, and get some additional input on the front end, if that's what council would like to see.
I think this was, Doug, I think this was,
before you or Buddy either
no,
one.
I think this was right at the beginning of mine, and I've been on longer than Buddy.
Oh, okay.
Then it was right at the beginning, and we had very little to do with this, and it was put on a back burner or something.
And they did, and I mean, they did a study on it.
2017, you adopted it.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah, I believe you guys were here in 2017.
yes, we were.
Yeah, I remember, I mean,
but-
I was in favor of it, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't have a problem with that. The concept is good. It's just that the right-of-way has been infringed upon to the point that we got to do something about it first.
Very good.
I think, in looking at it and dealing with it, we need to discuss it or look at it some more. We've got our master plan for our sidewalks that we should be trying to follow, that we get $50,000 roughly a year in on that. We're also looking at doing our mountain sea trail. Can we try to tie that in? So that could possibly be some funds to help out with that. So I think there's some other things that's popped up that can come into play with it that makes a difference now. But I do know and do agree the fact we're going to have to look at some of our roads as one way sooner or later. Which ones those will be and how to best tie them in, I think is what we need to look at and work forward and work towards in the future. But right now, I don't think, other than a small pilot program, I don't think we're ready to jump in on anything.
Yeah, and we didn't want to jump head first into any sort of permanent thing, and then I think based on the feedback, I'm going to focus on our right-of-ways and then continue to do some additional investigation with this. Again, I think that the mail and trash is going to be an issue.
It will be.
But I didn't want to ruffle those feathers until I brought this to y'all.
Well, I don't think the mail will be as much trouble as the trash, really.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, we can, we can move the mailboxes. The town staff can move the mailboxes.
Sure. And
What kind of comments did you get back from the residents?
this was just taken out of our plan. So the development of the plan and this recommendation was already in place, and that's what I took those recommendations and carried it forward to you. But what I was going to do is incorporate this into our right-of-way clearance and the open houses that we have for that, and then we can garner some additional feedback. But really, with the pilot program, the core concept of the input was going to be the user experience, after that 2 or 3 month program, to see if that was something that people would support, on a more permanent basis or not.
Just from my standpoint, I'd be interested to know what the residents on that street. We're going to have to look at it, but when we get ready to go forward, I think we need to have all of our ducks behind Mother Goose that's leading them, rather than have all of them scattered and trying to pull them all in at different times.
Well, and before we present it to the residents, we need to have an idea of what we're going to do.
Right. That's what I'm saying. We need to have all of it lined up, and then we can tell them, this is what we're looking at doing. What do you feel about it?
And, I remember when we were talking about it before, we had some that was against it because she'd have to go another block to get to her house. But then I think best I remember, the majority of them, which wasn't a whole lot of input, but the majority of them that did put input in was in favor of it. And the reason they were is because it put a lot less traffic coming by their house. But
Well, I think
Because
I
it
think
does
we keep,
cause people to have to drive another block to get home.
if we keep in mind the safety, which is what we're looking at basically primarily, because it's traffic is safety and pedestrians walking is safety, bicycles, all those things combined, we try to do what's best safety-wise for the residents as well as the town. And sometimes there's changes have to be made that not everybody's going to agree with, but for the majority and what's best for the town and best for the majority is what we have to go with.
Well, it was just like, you know, we didn't know how the town was gonna take parking. But majority of the people in town are in a favor of the parking, the paid parking. And one reason is because it made it a lot safer, you know, so we just have to see how they take this.
I love the concept, Cal. I like the wanting to do it in the off-season to give it a trial run. If we were to do it in the off-season, maybe we could go ahead and, having one-way traffic, you could go ahead and clear that right away. So if we have the public meetings sooner rather than later, maybe it is a project that could move forward this winter.
We'll do our best, and I'll keep you posted. And again, this is a big change or potential big change, and that's why I really did want to get your feedback on some of this stuff. And just looking for an opportunity to increase our bike and ped infrastructure without major investments right now. So.
On the mailboxes too, I know like on my street, there are several of us that have come together where there was a mailbox here, 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 and then we combined like 4 of them like in a central location. So a lot of residents may be willing to do that as well.
And it'd make it a lot safer driving down the road too, if you could get the mailboxes together.
Yeah, because it was scary riding with Don in the fire truck. I thought we were gonna hit a mailbox like every 30 feet.
We didn't even get near one.
But it just feels like that.
Oh, well,
Because they're just so close.
Yeah.
it is, I mean.
I started counting mailboxes, and then I quickly realized that they're all on one side. And
Oh, yeah.
there's.
Yeah.
I asked the delivery guy, and he didn't know why it was like that. Why everything was on
Well,
one
that's
side.
because one person put their mailbox on that side.
Okay.
And then. Everybody else did the same thing.
Everybody else did the same thing.
Okay. There you go.
And then, of course, after they get so many put out there, then when you can't check with the post office,
Yeah.
they tell you to put it on that
On
side.
that
so
side.
you
It's
can
easier
drive
for
down.
them. Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
it's
he
not
goes.
driving both ways.
And he delivers mail north, going on North Shore. So this would be a change to their route, but
Well, yeah.
anywho, I'm pretty sure they can skin the
I'm
cat.
sure he
a
can,
different
they're
way.
probably intelligent enough to be able to switch that.
Postal Service. So. Okay, very good. I appreciate it, Mr. Mayor and Council.
All righty. Well, it's you again now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Speaking of trash carts, this was one that I wanted to bring up and for continued discussion and potential recommendations in regards to how the town operates our trash carts and recycling carts, and really specifically on the island where there begins to create conflicts for vehicles, bicycle and pedestrian, service delivery, particularly in our central business district. It just gets busy, and then we exacerbate issues when there's trash carts that are just hanging around for a lengthy amount of time. So I looked into this and looked at a couple of different options. We started exploring this concept, at the beginning of this year. We put out a random survey to 100 of our rollback customers and essentially asked them if we had a rollout and rollback service, would you be interested in that? To try to engage the temperature on that. It was about 50-50, I believe, as we got those responses, which we did get good responses from. And then there was a lot of concern about what this would do to my cost for that program. We then later found out that working through our contract with GFL, our current solid waste provider, that this service, a full backdoor service, would cost essentially $10 per cart, which is about an additional $6. We currently charge, I believe, $4.25, excuse me, per cart for the rollback program. And that is the cost to the town direct from the contractor. So those costs would have escalated about 150% as shown, and then GFL tacked on an additional 7% for the basic trash and recycling to cover their cost, because moving in this direction, it would require additional manpower than the trash truck driver to get out, bring a cart down, dump it, and put back. They would have to deploy separate employees and passenger vehicles, essentially, to send personnel out before the truck gets there to roll a cart out, and then to roll the carts back once that has been delivered. So council felt at that time that it was not necessarily something that we wanted to do. And that was even looking at if every single account in town was enrolled in that program. I asked that question, would that reduce our cost? And the response was no, that cost would remain constant. So then we started looking at, well, is there an option to set up a special service district for this area, that we could essentially require just the island to participate in a program. And I don't know if you have any more rocks over there, but legal counsel came back and said we do not have the statutory authority to set up separate solid waste districts in that manner, unless it was part of the overall contract, which we knew that we could not do. So that kind of put a slowdown to our efforts. So then I went back and looked at, okay, well, what are personnel costs? If there was a minimum minimum salary employee to do this, how many it would take, and the resources that they would need. In my estimation, you would need a combination of 2 full-time employees plus vehicles, or a combination of a full-time and part-time with that, but still need 2 vehicles. And the vehicles, I feel you have to have essentially two crews doing this work. If you only had one, it would take the entire day plus more to do half the island to roll them out, and then to go back and roll them back. We would need to have 2 separate crews doing that so they could split up that labor. The way that the island operates is that we have trash pickup on Monday, Tuesday, and in season on Friday. So this would require a rollout on Sunday, a rollout on Monday for the Tuesday delivery, and then a rollback on Monday after those carts have been serviced, and a rollback on Tuesday after those carts are serviced, and then again Thursday night for that Friday delivery, and then Friday afternoon for the rollback service back to the house. So with that being said, there is a cost that goes to that. I provided a third, basically a recommendation that the town could consider, which would go through the regulatory route. Our current ordinance allows for somebody to put a trash cart out no earlier than 12 p.m. the day before that trash cart is serviced. And then you have to bring it off of the street no later than 6 p.m. the day after that cart is serviced. So that is a very long amount of time for a trash cart to have the allowance to be out there. And not saying that everybody just leaves their cart out to that maximum extent, but there's some slight adjustments that could be made to that ordinance that could that I had put in a recommendation that would cut that by at least 10 hours, having a 4 p.m. the day before and a 12 p.m. the day after. We could at least try to avoid some of the major beach traffic. But you gotta think a Friday pickup, somebody can leave that out Saturday until 6 p.m. before they bring that back. So that's where I think a lot of our conflicts occur, or on those Saturdays when those trash carts are still hanging out. So going back to the personnel side and a program that could be put in place, I think there's also additional numerous options where the town could look at just doing the rollback. For every cart, we wouldn't have to do the rollout. There's I think a variation of options that we could look at, and I wanted to bring those recommendations to you. The easiest thing to be able to do is look at the ordinance, and then also couple that with a violation increase, a fine increase, to reiterate the rules. But I look back at between June 15th, July 15th, so about that 1 month period, we issued approximately 45 or so trash cart violations, which usually are in the nature of leaving them out too long. Sometimes there's extra bags that are piled up next to the trash cart, et cetera. And then also to require the forced placement in that enrollment and rollback enrollment program if they're a repeat violator. So with that being said, I would like to get your input on that with the options provided. Again, the recommendation would be to decrease that allowable time and also to increase the fines for the violations.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to, just real quick. And I know, Kyle, we have worked really hard on the Central Business District, and you've been on them religiously, but it's still not fixed. So we can't go hit our employees, we can't go hit our citizens if the trash company's not being consistent. So if they're not being consistent, how do we expect our citizens to be consistent? So to raise a fine and to, I'm okay with adjusting the time, but the problem is sometimes they're not even picking it up till 12, 1 o'clock. So there is that issue. It's not your fault. You've made call after call after call after call, and it has gotten better, no doubt. But it's still problematic. There's no doubt, because if it's raining, maybe they don't come. If they have a truck down, they don't come. So then it's okay for them to be late. But then if one of our citizens is late, then we're going to fine them more money. So I have to say we really have to dig into this a little bit. We really got to be cautious on charging more in our times until it's fixed. So that's what I have to say.
Mr. Mayor, my problem is, we've been fighting this thing ever since I've been on the council.
Yes.
This, basically, as long as the town provides the service, the way I look at this, and that's the trash service, then it's the homeowner's responsibility, whether they rent it or whether they live there full time, to get that garbage, the way I look at it, to get that garbage out to the street and get that garbage can back. It's not and I live off the island, and the people in the mainland, all of them is going to feel the same way. They take their garbage can to the street, they bring it back. Why these people that are renting these houses, and nothing against that, but they got to be responsible for something.
And I wasn't saying not to be responsible for sure, but I'm just saying the time.
Their responsibility is the owner of the property. The town provides the service, and it's our responsibility with the times for them, GFL, to be more consistent with their times. It's not going to do any good if we make a program. If they're not consistent with their time, then how are you going to be consistent with your? If we did that with our people going out and pulling them to the street, we can do that. But putting them back, if the times are not consistent, we're not going to be that. And I don't know how to make these people responsible, but I don't think it's fair or it's right that the people that are, and everybody on the island don't live in a rental district, that the people that rent these places out, it's their responsibility. I've said all along, ever since I've been on the council, it's their responsibility to get those carts to the street and get them back. It's not the town's responsibility. We're providing the sewer service, and we're providing the water service, and we're providing the garbage service. So that's, I don't know what we fought, Doug, hadn't we? We fought this thing in every way, shape, and form, and it's still, I don't.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if I may, question or comment. I live on a street, it's a private street. We've got 4 or 5 rentals. We've got 4 or 5 other people that are residents up at Raleigh. They come down here for a weekend. They'll put their cans out when they leave on Sunday, but if it wasn't for me and other permanent residents, those cans would stay out until the next weekend they came down.
Right.
As far as the rentals go, is it possible to have the realty company not pay for it out of their pocket, but charge the rental person, the person that owns the house, a service for the rental property to maybe employ somebody or something like that to go and put those cans back in? Because the people come down, they rent, the renters put out the full cans plus whatever else they have. And a lot of, in all fairness to the guy that picks it up, we do have an individual who gets out of his truck and picks up the bags on the side, but sometimes he's not working. Other guys don't do that. And that bag will sit out on the road unless one of us permanent residents put it in the can, put the can back under the house, and wait for the next group that comes down.
Well, rentals are a big problem, but then that other problem that you brought up, people that are just down here on the weekend,
Yeah.
that's a big problem.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, they leave their can. We got one individual, he leaves his cans out, and we, not that we get tired of putting it back in, but, you know.
Like you say, and I mean, my neighbor used to. Of course, I got permanent neighbors there now, but on both sides of me. But used to, and I would, I told them gladly when I rolled mine in, I'd roll theirs in,
That's what we do,
And that took care of that, but everybody didn't have somebody that would roll the can back for them. So, I mean, it's just a problem any way you go.
I mean, the other point is, what would it, is this figure here $210,000? Is that's what it would be if we hired 2 full-time people and gave them a vehicle to do it?
Yeah, a comprehensive rate, even on the minimum salary, $31,200 for the town, comes out to be about $65,000. That's per employee.
That's just for the employee.
That's per employee, and then I calculated about $40,000 for vehicle.
What would be the difference if the carting company charged us for that? Would it be more?
Excuse me?
Is it, what would be the difference if the carting company charged us to do the roll, just the roll back, not the roll out, the roll back?
They do the rollback, but we pass that cost along to the homeowner, and it's $4.25 per cart. But that's an optional program.
Right.
That's per month, yeah.
And the possibility of making that mandatory is probably a little involved, right?
It would require a contract amendment, I would assume, Mr. Eads, if you can help, and if a rollback mandatory, can we mandate the rollback within the contract, and then that would be applied townwide? That could not be applied just in certain areas.
Yes.
Okay. So for the homeowner or resident that takes their trash out and brings it back in, on a consistent basis, they would be subject to the additional costs that would
Okay,
occur.
and so these employees, if we choose to go that route and hire 2 guys, have a vehicle, liability insurance, all that stuff, they could also be used in other areas?
Yeah, so looking at what that would entail, I estimated in between 24 and 32 hours a week for dedicated roll-out, rollback service. We could try to cut that down if we did just rollback. And then, if those employees were hired, they probably would be lesser skilled if they were to be assigned in another department. So they probably wouldn't be relied upon to be, on major jobs or anything of that nature. But, the town can always use additional labor, of course, to do the things that we're trying to do. So it wouldn't be just this if we were going to try and look at implementing that.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I'm the one that asked this to be brought up at least 6 months ago, if not longer. I can't remember, but anyway, it's something we've dealt with, as Don had mentioned before when I came on the council, that we're dealing with it then. But it's a complex problem that has a lot of complex factors that affect it. But it's something that we need to do, and I think it's time for us to do something and try to figure it out. I believe that when we get down to it and looking and seeing what research Kyle has done in on it with our waste contractor, we're going to have to probably put on some kind of employees and work them into the thing. And we're going to have to look at our times, the multi-factors that affect our problems that we have that deal with safety, because some of the trash cans get on the edge of the highway. Some of them are too close to the highway. We have dogs and stuff and coons and everything else coming around that turns them over. And we have our population that we've got of people, of owners, as Mr. Medlin mentioned, they come down on the weekend, they leave on Sunday afternoon, they pull that trash can off, and if the trash doesn't pick up Monday until Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon, that trash can's out there for 2.5 days. And they're expecting us being the town of Surf City, to take care of that. Now, we can't mandate the time. We can do it, but it doesn't mean it's going to take place. We can't mandate the time that the garbage contract, if they're supposed to come through at 10 o'clock, they're going to want a variance. We'll come through between 8 and 12. So that's going to be a situation. And then if they have problems, it could also wind up being in the afternoon or being the next day. But I think what I was looking at, and I think what our residents are looking for and asking for, is to figure out, look at all these complex situations, look at all the complex factors that affect it, and come up with some kind of solution that hopefully will address this. And I'd like for you to think about something, and you certainly can agree or disagree, but I would like to work with the town manager. I think it's something we can do and get done on the possibility of moving forward with certain things. I don't think it's fair to go out and start fining our residents because of the fact that our garbage people aren't coming through on the correct time, that we've got residents that come down here and enjoy the weekend and enjoy the past that are paying their taxes and fines. But we can look at all the different factors and come up with an alternative, I think, because it's time to quit kicking the can down the road and do something, especially for our beautiful ocean and island we've got over there. And if it has to go town-wide, so be it. We can do that. But it's time for us to get up, stand up, and do something for our residents and for the town, because it affects not only the safety, it affects the cleanliness of the beach, our trash, everything, the beautification of our city. And we can make it happen, and it'll be at a cost, and it's something that we still need to do. And looking at it, we have grown. We used to have a lot of vacant lots over there. We didn't have as many people down here as we have now, and that's luckily our island's just about filled up, close to it. But we still have some buildable lots over there. But we need to look at it, and I would like to get with the town manager and figure out, because I'm a person that likes to put apples with apples and oranges with oranges. I'm not interested in something increasing 5% or 10% or 20%. I want to know the fact that GLFL is going to charge us $210,000 to do this service that we want. And if we can get it done for $160,000, it's something we need to move forward with and utilize in our town for our residents as well as our town. So I would like to be able to get with the manager, come up with a plan that we would like to see implemented and bring it back to the council for implementation, for a yay or nay, or whatever the case may be. At least I would feel better about the fact that I've gone to the bat and tried to do something. Not saying the rest of the council hasn't, because we, like I say, we've been dealing with this a long time. But it's time for us to really put something down and do something physically and financially to take care of this problem.
Okay, do I have an agreement for Buddy to work with Kyle and come up with a plan?
He asked for it, he's got it.
Okay. Buddy, you got it.
Thank you.
Kyle, you got it.
Thanks.
So,
I made 3 motions.
Do what?
I made 3 motions.
You made 3 motions? Okay. All right. Well, we got that through. Okay. Kyle, have you got another item we need to discuss?
No, sir, Mr. Mayor, just didn't want anybody to forget about our beach sweep tomorrow, 8 a.m. at the park.
Right. 8 a.m. tomorrow morning at the park. And just bring your sand shoes and be ready to get on the beach.
Maybe a rain jacket.
Huh?
Maybe a rain jacket.
I know, you can work in the rain and keep you cool while you're working. Okay, Don, you got anything else?
Yes, I'll read something. I got something I want to read.
Okay.
At one of the last council meetings, and it was prior, I made a comment that might have confused the public about our mayor. I want to publicly apologize to the mayor, Doug Medlin, for that. I was trying to let the public know that everyone has to follow the same rules in all the council, to include our mayor does not make any exceptions to those rules. I have worked with Doug for a long time and I know he does what is right for everyone, but I don't want people to think that we do favors for some and not others. I'm going to say that favors is fine, but everybody has to follow the same rules and regulation and ordinances. We must follow the ordinances of the town, and I apologize for the confusion. And I hope this clears it up.
I appreciate it, Don, and I know you were just trying to express that we have to follow the rules and regulations, and I know that, and have always done it. And I will, if I can do somebody a favor that is legal, then I will do it. If it's not legal, then I won't do it. So,
Me too.
yeah, so that's just what I was trying to get across. I had a couple to call me and wanted to know what I was doing, so anyway, I was not doing anything for anybody that I wouldn't do for everybody. Right, Don?
That's true.
Okay. All right, has anybody else got anything?
Yeah, I have something.
Buddy, I figure you got something. He's been sort of absent a little bit, so he's got a lot of catching up to do. So,
It's kind of a housekeeping chore.
Okay.
I think our lines have become a little blurry and a little cloudy on some things, and we need to be more responsive and clear those up in a timely manner. One of the things we always used to have to do, or we didn't have to, we did, so the council could have an opportunity to look at the full agenda and see it, was we had a deadline for the items coming in on the agenda to be presented to our town clerk, put them on the agenda. And that time frame needs to be adhered to, whether it's the mayor, whether it's me, whether it's any council member, whether it's a department head or whatever the case may be. If this deadline is set, and it will be set, and you miss that deadline, it'll have to wait till the next meeting. Because we need to we need to clear this thing up and put this cloud aside and get back and make it very clear what we are and what we're about. Because it's not fair to ask this council to have something to put on the agenda in the last hours before an agenda comes up to discussion, and we not had a chance to look at it and find out and research it to know, be informed about what we're discussing. So if you're a department head, it's college, it's something I'd like for you to get out to all the department heads and the rest of the staff in town. If we're having a Friday workshop, the agenda items are due Thursday before Thursday week before the workshop. In other words, the workshop today, they should have been in to Carla by Friday morning or Thursday night at close. So she can work on it Friday to get it out so the council members can have it on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday to review and cut something back in. If we have our regular meeting, whatever our regular meeting is, to make it perfectly clear, I guess it's the best to say that it should be in 5 working days. The agenda items that you want to put on there should be in 5 working days before the meeting.
yeah, you want to just set it 5 days?
5 days before the meeting. If you have something that comes up that's important, that doesn't mean that you can't have something added at the last minute, but as far as us to get in and look at it, I think it needs to be submitted 5 working days prior to the meeting. And if it's not going to be considered.
Yeah, if something is important.
Yes, something that is important.
Does
And
that include the council meeting as well?
yes,
It's consistent 5 working days.
consistent 5 working days prior to the meeting. And there's some other things that I'd like to see us do. Our committees, subcommittees and things we've got, some lines have been blurred there a little bit. I think we need to get something out, Kyle, to these committees about what our policies are and how they are. And I'll talk with you, if that's okay, with the rest of them later to make sure that gets out. But we need to, we don't need to let the fog move in. We need to keep things clear and focused and moving.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Chief, Wilson, tell them about Monday. Tell them about Monday.
We have another pushing ceremony Monday at 9 o'clock for engine 23 over at the Allen Fire Station.
We might need more people pushing than we did the other day.
There's a little bit of a hill.
Oh, it's on the
It's a
hill.
little bit of a hill.
It's more of a hill on the
Well,
outside.
if you do it over here, how much of a hill is that?
Oh, it's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to bring your good boots this time, Mr. Mayor.
Right.
Where you can dig in. We'll make it work.
I think Don was mashing the brake a little bit too.
No, Don wasn't. No.
I'm back now.
Okay, yeah, but the truck push-in is Monday. At what
9
time?
o'clock.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock. Okay, Monday at 9 o'clock at the station on the island.
Correct.
Truck-
23.
Other new truck roll in. They are beautiful trucks. I know that, well, hadn't got anybody town employees in it. Well, got him. Have you seen the new truck? Oh, you already seen it. Okay. Well, anyway, they are beautiful trucks. They did a fine job. And Chief, I got to commend you on building those trucks. You had them built, and they look wonderful. And I like the way you've got everything on them, and you used every nook and cranny on it, I think, for something.
He did a wonderful job.
Appreciate it.
People don't realize how much work him and Curtis Cinderelli and Junior Hall did as far as all the wiring of the radios and a lot of stuff. He and those two individuals put forth a lot of effort on these trucks.
Okay. Anything else we need to thank anybody for?
Price got a new truck this week too.
Hey, Price got a new truck.
Two
too.
trucks.
Got
You
a
got
dump
a
truck. Truck and a
dump
regular
truck, and you got your pickup. Oh, dump truck and his pickup. So,
13 months later.
we didn't get to push the pickup, the dump truck in though.
It wouldn't be as bad as the other.
It would. Okay.
Our
All
truck's
right.
heavy.
But anyway, all right. What else? Police department didn't get any new cars this week.
If you want to give me some new cars, I'll take them.
Do what?
If you want to give me a couple, I'll take them.
Oh, okay.
We're going to swear him in. Yes, sir, we got a new officer. He's standing by. We're going to swear him in right after the meeting's over.
Okay.
Okay.
And you got something? You got something? All right.
You good? Everybody else good?
We're good.
How about the attorney over there?
I'm good.
And we're glad to have you today.
I make the motion, we adjourn.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor, raise your hand. And we are adjourned. Thank you.